Siema, cześć, dzień dobry, witam bardzo serdecznie wszystkich oglądających na YouTubie. Oglądamy, słuchajcie, zapowiedź Ligi 03. No nie, a nawet nie zapowiedź, a już pewien showcase. Zobaczymy, co tutaj leci. No i co? Wreszcie dostaniemy odpowiedź na pytanie, czym wreszcie zagramy, jakie buildy będzie można sobie ciekawy porobić. Sporo jest informacji na temat tego, że ma zdropić druid, że ma zdropić 4. akt, będzie most do 5. aktu.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Rogers from Grinding Gear Games, and welcome to GGG Live. Today we're going to show you an exclusive reveal of what's coming next for Path of Exile 2.
Dawaj głośniej.
Twitch drops are enabled on today's
Są
live
Twitch
stream,
dropy.
so you'll be able to claim your Sun Priest's Incineration rare finisher effect by following the instructions below. Now with that out of the way, let's get started. It's time to give you a teaser of what's coming in Path of Exile
Dawaj,
2,
teaserek.
the Third Edict.
4. akt, druid, let's go. Ale jestem najarany na tą ligę. Tylko szkoda, że nie będę grał długo. Ale jestem.
To save our way. Over the ages, we have known pain like no other, but we endured, and we became mighty. Now, outsiders dishonor our shores, and we
Mam
have
bardzo
stood
ładne
by,
animacje, biorąc pod uwagę fakt,
nothing.
że to jest zrobione na silniku od hack and slasha, nie?
Hear my
Super
voice,
wygląda poe.
ancestors. Show us your strength. Show us the true way. I understand.
O! Dobre wnięcie. Jak pogranie w inne gierki, wracasz do poe, patrzysz na poe. To się fenomenalnie dobrze prezentuje. I patrzcie, i można robić markery takie, że masz kółko zaznaczone, jaki będzie atak, żeby to nie wyglądało tanio. Można. O kurwa, małpa. Ty! Ale zajebiście wygląda. No kurwa, to jest 4. akt, 100%. Patrz ile nowych bossów, ile nowych animacji modeli. No jak chuj. Akt 4, no pewnie. Zajebiście. 3 Interlude akty, 3 jakieś mostki, 35 nowych krain, 24 nowe bossy, overhaul systemu gemu, rework skilli, lineage supporty, nie wiem co to jest, endgame mapy, nowe przedmioty, 115 nowych notabli, system sprintowania, żeby szybciej wracać. O, no oni to mają rozmach. Ja się czuję, jak pamiętacie, jak zdropiło jakieś kilka aktów naraz do pojedynki? Tak się czuję, bo pamiętam w pracy wtedy oglądałem. Jakie kolory. Tu jest grubo.
Now, as you can see, there's a lot going on, and we have a lot to reveal today. We'll start by going over Act 4, the next chapter in the Path of Exile 2 storyline. But that's not all. There's also 3 new interlude acts to get you to Endgame, which means we're removing Cruel Difficulty 2.
Zajebiście.
After that, we'll be going through the massive changes to characters. I'm super excited to show you how I've overhauled the entire support gem system, added new skills, and yes, there are buffs. Next, we'll go over the Rise of the Abyssal, this season's exclusive league mechanic, and talk about the new rewards, crafting systems,
Fajnie,
areas, and
mechaniki
bosses that
ligowe
it adds.
wreszcie ten.
After that, it's on
Pojawiają
the
się
changes
w
we're
PoE
making to the
2.
endgame. Then it's time to talk about items, crafting, and oh yeah,
Ej,
trade.
02 miało
That's gonna be a
jakąś
big one.
mechanikę ligową?
We'll then go over our new supporter packs and finish up with a live Q&A session where Ziggy D will ask Path of Exile 2's game directors, myself and Mark, your questions from Twitch chat. And after that, at 4 p.m. Pacific, patch notes. They're not quite complete, but they should give you some nice details to chew on.
Jezu.
We've got a lot to cover today, but first,
Ja bym
another
na mapy nie
announcement.
wszedłem w
When
02,
the Third
tylko
Edict
Sanctum
launches on the
ufarmiłem,
29th,
chyba nie?
we'll be having a free weekend for Path of Exile 2. That's right, Path of Exile 2 will be free for the first time without requiring an early access key.
O, widzisz.
The free weekend will end on September the 1st, so you'll have plenty of time to give the game a try.
Dzień później wchodzi zajebiście,
Alright,
tak?
let's get started with
Czy
Act
to
4.
wchodzi od razu, stary, na
The story
premierę
continues from the end of Act
sezonu?
3.
Bo to serwery jebną.
Dowozi has agreed to help you find an ancient weapon that can be used against corruption, the instrument of the Third Edict. The weapon was broken in ages past, but he believes that the pieces may be found in the Kurui archipelago, the
No to
home of the
lipa z
Kurui
serwerami.
tribes. You will need to journey to Kingsmarsh,
Mogliby to opóźnić o jeden dzień.
hire a ship, and set sail. When you open the map, you can choose to sail anywhere you like. Act 4 is completely non-linear, and you can visit the islands in any order you choose. Will you visit the pristine beaches of Whakapanu Island? The Kurui whisper of a curse that afflicts all who travel there. Perhaps it's related to the weapon you seek. Or maybe you will visit the volcanic shores of the Isle of Kin. The Kin have been more restless recently, mining for sulfite and driven
Oh,
by
wow,
some
this is
dark
like-
force. Perhaps you will choose to consult with one of the local Kurui tribes. Their ancient wisdom could hold clues to finding the Third Edict. No matter where you choose to go, you will fight dangerous beasts, find fabulous treasures, and battle incredible bosses.
A
Małpa.
challenger!
Wukong jako boss, zajebiście.
Your soul!
There are 8 islands to discover, each teeming with its own flora and fauna. Act 4 contains over 100 new monster types, 16 new
Ponad
areas,
100 nowych
12 new
typów mobów?
bosses, and plenty of
10
other...
razy więcej typów
encounters.
mobów niż
There's a huge amount to show, but we're not going to spoil too
Diablo
much
4
here.
miał na
We want to
premierę.
give you a chance to discover it all for yourself. But what happens after Act 4? Well, until now you had to repeat the entire campaign again before you could face the endgame. But after adding Act 4, the game is far too long to make you do that. We needed something else to do in between the end of Act 4 and the endgame. So what else could we do? Add 3 new mini-acts, of course, and we're calling them the Interludes. The Interludes are a set of 3 temporary side stories that will be included in the game until Act 5 is released, that will take you to level 65 where the endgame can begin. The first interlude sends you on a journey back to Ogham. Renly has been leading the efforts to rebuild Ogham village after the defeat of Count Geonor, but there's a new danger afoot. The nearby town of Holton is surrounded by an impenetrable darkness, and each night their corrupted townfolk emerge to raid the local farmlands. You will discover new areas and new bosses.
Kurwa, fajny
You'll need to
boss.
find your way through the darkness,
Jezu, Wispy, weźcie to wyjebać.
uncover the source of corruption,
Soon you will serve our master.
and defeat it.
Yes, I shall dance with their corpse.
And that's just the first interlude. The second interlude will have you return to the Vasteri Desert, where Asala has been given a sacred duty. When the skies align, the gifting of water requires a chosen Sekima to meet with the Selkari, guardians of the sacred water, but they're nowhere to be found. You will need to track down the Selkari, find those responsible for disrupting the gifting, fight even more new bosses, discover the secrets of the ancient ritual, discover new locations, and ultimately help Asala carry out her sacred duty. Now for Interlude 3.
Jest kurwa
As
hype,
Royal
czy nie?
Thaumaturge of the Val, Dowozi had plans within plans to save his people from the cataclysm perpetuated by Atzeri's lust for power. One such plan involved sealing a group of willing Val deep in a great
Yes,
mountain
yes,
vault
yeah.
near the home of the Asmeri, deep enough to survive the cataclysm. Even though thousands of years have passed, he believes that their descendants may still live and may be key to defeating the beast.
Dają to, czego
journey
ludzie
up the mountain will
oczekiwali
be
w
dangerous.
tym, nie? 80
New
000
foes
osób to
stand in your
ogląda.
way. And the further up the mountain you venture, the colder it will become. Explore caves of ice and enter the vault itself.
Tak powinno
Who can
02
say what you will
wyglądać,
find
nie?
within? The interludes are 6 to 7 areas each and generally include 4 boss fights as well. When you put that together with Act 4, that adds up to 35 new areas in the campaign and 24 new bosses. It's worth making clear that the interludes are temporary. When Act 5 and 6 are added, the interludes will be going away. These are side stories after all, but don't worry, the bosses and areas that make up the interlude are all part of the endgame. We're not just going to throw them away. And with that, we don't need cruel difficulty anymore. We do know that it was a pretty big chore to have to play through the campaign multiple times on each character, and this was a huge reason that the campaign could feel like a bit of a slog when playing through again. But we do also have another new feature to address that particular concern as well. So let's talk about sprinting.
To mnie
In
ciekawi
030,
bardzo.
when you hold down the dodge roll button, your character will go into a sprint after they finish the roll. This is available on all character classes, and there's no limitation on how long you can sprint for. The primary purpose of this feature is to make navigating areas faster when out of combat.
Trzymać
Because of that,
będziesz
if you do
musiał.
take a hit while sprinting, you'll fall to the ground.
O
The
kur...
best idea is to use a skill when you see monsters. That'll break you out of the sprint so you can engage with no danger. If you do need to run away from monsters,
Ty.
just hold spacebar. You won't
High
be vulnerable
risk
during the roll,
mechanika.
and you're faster while sprinting than basically any monster in the game.
Ale
allowing you
będę
to retreat
czekał
from
na
combat.
wszystkie death clipy z Kiszaka.
Sprint is a pretty significant change to PoE 2's gameplay. What I like most about it is that we can accelerate the pace of the game for those who
Ale
want that,
będą się na
without
haseku
having to
tym
compromise on
wypierdalać,
PoE 2's
nie?
more visceral combat systems. Okay, so that's the new extensions to the campaign, but there's a whole giant league to play through as well. I'll leave that to Mark to talk about later. And that's because what I want to talk about now is the new stuff for your characters. And probably one of the biggest new systems here is with the support gems.
Ciekawe
Now,
właśnie jak
support gems are one
speedruny
of the most
będą
interesting
wyglądać, no.
elements to creating a build. They're what enables so many interesting mechanics and different ways to play. But PoE 2's support gem system has just never been quite right. One of the major issues is the limitation of only having one support gem of each type on your character. We didn't want builds to just become using the same 5 most powerful supports in every skill. The problem with this design, though, is that it's actually working against using multiple skills in your build. If you can only use each support gem on one skill, it means that you're encouraged to go all in on that one ability.
No,
And we
tak
want to
jest.
encourage you to combo your abilities, something needed to change. So with that in
I
mind,
da z
we've removed the
wykonaniem
restriction
się.
of having one of each support gem per character. You can now use as many
Siła.
copies as you like. This should drastically increase the amount of possible builds and
Zajebiście.
increase the amount of skill diversity. There are a lot of potential builds that suffered from the previous restriction. For example, a poison build previously couldn't add poison to more than one skill. They couldn't use stacking poison on more than one skill either. This severely limited your ability to combo with anything outside of the specifically designed poison archetype, but now you can. Many utility skills previously couldn't scale to endgame because the supports that would make them scale were more useful to use in other skills. You would never speed up killing Palm with martial tempo when you would much rather use it on your primary skill instead. There are more examples like this all over the place.
Kurczę, nie dojdzie do sytuacji, że nagle będziesz grał na każdym
In
skillu te
addition to
same
that,
dżemy
though,
prawie.
we thought there wasn't enough feeling of progression in the supports as you
Albo
went through the
Martial
game.
Tempo.
There were only 3 tiers of supports, and many of the
Będą
most
tiry
important ones were given out
supportów.
at tier 1.
Zajebiście.
Also, there were no strict upgrades,
Będziesz
meaning
miał
that upgrading
brutalnie
supports when
jedynkę,
you ran out of
dwójkę i
sockets
trójkę.
required quite a lot of thinking.
I nagle
In order to solve these issues,
supporty
we
z
now
trzeciego.
also have multiple levels of many supports as you
Zajebiście.
go through the
Jeszcze
game.
lepszy progres.
For example, double barrel support gives you an extra bolt, but at the cost of 30% less reload speed. At tier 2, the penalty gets lowered to 20%. But then at tier 3, the support gem gets something new. It now reloads automatically when you heavy stun an enemy. In
Zajebiście.
some cases, the highest tiers might work a little differently, and you'll have to decide if you like the upgrade or not, depending on your build. For example, rapid casting. The first couple of levels gives 15, then 20% increased cast speed.
Ty,
But then
trzeci
at
tier
tier
jest
3, it
taki.
changes to a new approach. For each different spell you cast in the last 8 seconds, you get 10%
O
increased
kurwa.
cast speed.
To
which
nie
could
jest
be a pretty
liniowy
big bonus
przyrost
if you use a lot of
mocy,
different spells.
tylko
So that's
czasami
pretty good for
chcesz z
upgrades to the
dwójki
campaign.
skorzystać, bo
We want to
trójka
add a little more spice
zmienia
to the
sposób
in-game
działania
supports too.
support dżema.
And that's where our new system, lineage
Zajebiście.
supports, comes in. You can think of these like unique items, but for supports. There are supports that are only available at endgame, but they're much more powerful. Like Ratha's Assault. It's an upgraded version of Double Barrel that reloads your skill as you dodge roll, as well as increasing the number of bolts it can hold. But it does mean that it's the only way you can reload the skill now. Now, unlike
Co
you
jest,
can't
kurwa,
find these through the
stare
uncut
echo.
support gem. Just like unique items, many of these can be found from specific bosses. And there's a ton in the regular drop pool too. Some of them are fairly rare,
Quality level,
others
nice.
fairly common. Some of them are build defining. Others are just straight up power upgrades. All in all, there's around 40
Inwertalereczów.
lineage supports being added throughout the endgame. So there's a
Zajebiście.
lot of power to find out there.
No kurwa, to
Now,
będą...
the new support gems are certainly going to open up a lot of
Ale
builds,
będzie
but of
w chuj
course we have a
nowych
huge
buildów.
range of improvements to individual character classes as well as adding new skills. We had a big focus on buffing existing skills so that they can scale well into the endgame. There's a huge amount to cover here, so we're not going to discuss everything. We're just going to quick fire through some of the coolest changes. We wanted to make cold a more useful element on the Ranger, so we've expanded the cold tools available. As well as
Zajebiście,
increasing its range,
Rangerka.
Escape Shot now creates fragments of ice whenever it hits the ground. These fragments explode after a short time, making the skill better for killing groups of enemies. But not only that, we added an ice fragment support that creates more of them when killing frozen enemies.
O,
And a new buff
kaskadowy
skill called
efekt.
Ice-Tipped Arrows that allows all your arrows to create ice fragments. This already gives clear to rangers wanting to use ice, but to take further advantage of the ice fragments, Freezing Salvo has been upgraded to shoot additional cold arrows towards every fragment, giving you a nuke-like
Ty
ability.
kurwa, może być fajna kaskadowa rangerka taka.
We've also modified Snipe to consume frozen from enemies, dealing a huge amount more damage, giving you a nice ice single target option.
Też fajne.
And something you might notice about this
wysadzania
is that the
bossów.
bonus is a lot higher against bosses. This is actually a change you'll see throughout the entire game.
Ty
Since
bez
it's a lot
kitu
harder to freeze a
zamrażasz
boss,
bossa?
you should get a bigger reward for it.
Nice.
Another theme you'll see throughout the game is making movement feel better. Toxic Growth is a skill that was pretty cool, but a bit annoying to use with the jump that it had. Now Toxic Growth is a range skill, so you can spam it more easily. And we've also added a new poison skill while we were at it, called Toxic Domain. It creates a small area around you that makes all your attacks create toxic growth pustules, but attached to monsters.
Ty kurwa, ja gram
Another skill that was
Hamonka pod
annoying
to.
to use was Electrocuting Arrow. It's now just a regular arrow, making it easier to
Nie,
use.
gram Monka pod łuk, już to
But it
widzę.
also means you can support it with
I Cold
projectile
zajebisty,
supports.
Monk
And
ma
it now
dużo
also
nodek
has
pod
area of
Colda
effect,
przy
making it
sobie,
a
no
tool
nie?
for more than just single
I
target,
przecież Gasaroło
and
się
allowing it to
grało
scale
pod
into the
Poison
endgame.
i 2 buildy już są.
We also added a new spirit reservation called Mirage Archer. This is a meta skill that allows you to create shadowy clones of yourself to use a skill of your choice.
A,
Of course, one of the other big problems the Ranger had was survivability. Evasion was the weakest of the three defenses, and we wanted to change that. Currently,
boss
evasion evade all
kurwa.
types of hits in the game, so you're still vulnerable to things like slams or unblockable attacks. To make evasion characters more tanky, we're adding a new mechanic called Deflect. Unlike evasion, Deflect works on everything, and if you successfully deflect a hit, you take 40% less damage. Items can now give you a mod that gives you some amount of deflection based on your evasion.
O, ty!
And there's a bunch
Na
of it
direct...
available on the passive tree too.
Spell
Deflection
suppression
is rolled in
nowe.
addition to evasion.
To
This is an
każdy
upgrade
będzie
for
nie
regular
chciał
hits too.
wymaksować, nie?
And unlike evasion, there's no maximum chance.
Ale wiecie,
You can
jak
reach
to się
100%
skończy, że będziesz
deflect
chciał grać.
against all hits if you spec into it enough.
To będziesz chciał grać.
Of course, there's a buff
To
that
będzie
helps
to
all
samo
dex
co spell
characters, so
suppress.
the mercenary and the monk, but especially the huntress are seeing big defense boosts from this as well.
Nie, ja gram Bonkiem, no.
Speaking of defensive mechanics, let's talk about block and parry. Now, one of the big concerns on the release of the huntress
Ciekawe,
was
z
parry
armorem.
feeling unreliable. One of the big reasons for this is there's a lot of hits that are not blockable, and
No
thus
to
not
ja gram
parryable
Dexa.
either.
Dex też najlepsza strona
So a
drzewka,
huge
każdy
balance
będzie
change
grał
we're making is
druidem.
that now everything is blockable, except
Ty, to
this
ciekawe.
makes parry much more reliable. And
Soul
not only that,
Slake'owy
but to make
gameplay,
block and parry
stary.
nicer to use, you now also move faster than before while using these abilities. This is a massive buff to passive block as well. So to counter that, we did have to lower the max passive block a bit, but overall you should feel much safer. Fire skills on the warrior were not really cutting the mustard.
No jak nie ma
So we
druida.
decided to upgrade a bunch of them, but also add some
Dropią
more as
druida,
well,
też
with much
fajne.
more clearing potential.
Jezu, wreszcie coś takiego pod
We've also
Warriora
added
jest,
called
nie?
Forge Hammer. The
Jak
volcanic
krab,
fishes
stary.
re-trigger when you slam them.
Kliknij
So
i
it's a great skill to
wywal.
make a flaming arena to fight a boss. We also
Zajebiście.
buffed Perfect Strike to have much larger area of effect, and changed Molten Blast to not always force you to move forward. Trust me, it feels a lot better to use now. The skill now has massively boosted chance to ignite monsters as well. And you're going to want to ignite
Ciekawe, czy
monsters due to a
support
new glory
wykręci się
skill
wokół
called
siebie
Ancestral
skill i będziesz
Cry.
miał Hammerdina.
Ancestral Cry charges up with glory by igniting monsters, invoking King Kaum's favor. After you do, use it to channel Kaum's ancestral power. Every attack will be ancestrally boosted with fire.
Kurwa, ale
Your
wybuchło.
very steps will explode, triggering volcanic fishes.
Ale
Or not
Yoshi,
from your
nie?
attacks.
Walicie teraz, Warriorzy?
Warrior shield skills were another area we wanted to improve. Now that we've got sprint, We actually don't need to have a cooldown on shield charge anymore. And now also
Shield
does
charge
more
bez
damage the further
cooldownu.
away you are when you use it.
O chuj.
Shield Wall got significantly upgraded AoE. Also, you can shield charge right through it to trigger all the walls.
Rzut młotkiem na dodatkowy
We also
młotek
added
i
a new
fork.
shield wall cry.
Nie wiem, czy fork by tu
Fortifying
działał.
cry gives you a defensive buff, but it also builds up charge on your shield that
Wątpię, że
empowers
to
your
jest jak
other shield
projectile...
skills. And Magma
Ale nie
Barrier now
widziałem,
doesn't
jakie
require
były
timing in order
tagi.
to use. Just wait for your shield to charge up and block.
Nie, ja Monka robię.
Seismic Cry now stuns enemies that are primed for stun.
Monka pod Colt albo pod Toksynę.
And we
Jadomancer.
changed the Sunder interaction with Armor Break. It now also gives a Sundered Armor debuff that makes enemies take 40% extra physical damage. Great for
O,
bosses.
zajebisty Sander.
Ancestral Warrior Totem has undergone some pretty significant changes too. We wanted the skill to feel more like using an ultimate.
Mówiłem,
That
że
summoning
kurwa
an ancestor
ulty,
to
nie?
fight for you was a
Muszą
big
coś...
deal.
Nie
So
ulty,
we've
tylko
changed this
te...
totem to require 3
totemy.
endurance charge to summon, and massively buffed its damage. It also now scales your weapon damage too.
Ja pierdolę, jak ekran wysadza wojownik zajebiście.
Since there's no limit anymore,
Ale boję się,
if
że
you build
ten
around generating
wojownik,
endurance
wiesz,
charges, you can
klik
summon an
jeden,
entire
klik drugi,
forest of
klik jeden,
totems.
klik drugi.
In order to make that easier, we added some new sources of endurance charges. There's now a support to make perfect strike generate charges, and a support for generating endurance charges from heavy stuns as well.
Niech te
Speaking of totems, we wanted to upgrade the
charges
Warbreak.
zmienią całkowicie.
Among the other changes we've made to this class, Answered Call now gives an extra totem, and the spirits have just been generally buffed in many ways. Use it with your limitless ancestral warrior forest to make an army of Karui that would make Tukohama proud. We've also merged the Great Wolf Howl and Warcaller's Bellow support, so that you can get all the benefits with one point. And Encased in Jade no longer removes the Jade when getting hit, making it a much better defense. Next up, let's talk about accuracy. Accuracy was always intended to be something that warriors didn't need to care about very much so long as they're in close combat. But unfortunately, that's not currently the case. This was particularly annoying with skills like Bone Shatter, which you certainly don't want to mess with.
Wyłączają stare
So we
accuracy.
significantly buffed your chance to hit at close ranges when you don't have much accuracy. Warriors
na
shouldn't
mele
require
można
any
mieć
accuracy
szansę.
investment in order to hit with close range attacks now. We also wanted to improve armor. Now, one of the major weaknesses of armor is the inability to defend against elemental damage. In order to mitigate this, we're adding a
Converte?
lot more of the stat that allows your armor to defend against elemental damage. It's now
O,
available on items and in a lot more places on the
giga dobre.
One of the most important improvements we've made in 030 is to
Potężne
decomp
buffy,
the action
nie?
and flow of shooting crossbows. You can now reload crossbows without any movement penalty.
Zajebiste.
Bit
To
of
oni
time.
grę przyspieszają.
This change benefits everyone, not just crossbow skills. With both of these changes put together, the run and gun playstyle feels much better. It's hard to explain how important this change is for the feel of the class. The Mercenary is also a good chance to talk about how we're rebalancing to make comboing skills much better. Take Shock, for example. It buffs damage and lasts 4 seconds right now, but that isn't really giving you enough time to take advantage of it. If you're going to add a lightning skill into a build that otherwise wouldn't use one, we need to make mechanics like this much better. So we've increased shock duration on monsters to last 8 seconds, and skills like
8-sekundowy
Plasma
szok.
Blast, which are intended to be good at shocking enemies, now increase the damage bonus by a lot more.
O kurwa, 30%
You'll
szok
find changes like this
podstawowy.
all around the game.
To kurwa,
Chill
to
now
do
lasts 8 seconds, giving
soski
you more
też.
of a reason to weave in cold damage.
8 sekund,
Freezing skills
30%
are better at
podstawowy.
Burning skills need to cause
W
burns that last
momencie,
longer.
gdy jest
But making
multum
skills like
kurwa
Permafrost Bolts and
dueli do
Incendiary Shock double down on
bufowania
how they're supposed
shock
to be
value,
used. It makes
to jest
using them in your build
ogromny
alongside
kurwa
other
buff.
skills much
Gdzie
more
na
likely.
każdym duelu na kurwa lightning
We're also making sure to buff
Arrowie
specific combos too.
miałem ailmenty
frag rounds now
kurwa
change nearby enemies.
podciągnięte. Ja już dosiągałem chyba do
And using
50%.
high velocity rounds with armor break will now fragment the opponent's armor. This causes monsters to take a portion of high velocity rounds damage with every subsequent hit, even tiny pellets. So that means following it with a shotgun blast is way more effective. Now there's a lot more buffs to crossbow skills, but for now I'm just going to talk about the new one we added, the Mortar Cannon. This one lets you socket any grenade skill, and using it will summon a cannon which loads and then fires the grenade you choose.
O! Kurwa, zajebiście. Jak pod balisty
Another issue on
wreszcie
the
jakieś
Mercenary
buildy
were
może
banners.
będą.
They were just not very good, so we're doing a big upgrade to them. They now last longer, don't disappear when moving out of them, and we removed the Valor mechanic. They now just give a much more consistent and stronger buff, and you
Zajebiście.
can use them when you get enough glory.
To zajebisty
On
buff.
which, one of the main
Na
focuses was
bossa
making
sobie
various
postawić.
minion types more useful to use together. Melee minions in particular were just not that great compared to ranged ones. As a starting point, we just straight up removed the requirement for minions to have accuracy.
Zajebiście miniony zawsze
Attack
trafiają.
minions now always hit, which makes them way better. Brutes got some good numeric buffs, but we also added a new command skill where they do a war cry that intimidates enemies and detonates any frozen monsters and allies around you in a big cold explosion.
Co kurwa?
We've also changed the Frost Mage's command skill to an ability that adds ice armor to your other minions, adding a layer of defense. And it makes them deal cold damage back to the attacker as well. The ice armor also makes the minion count as frozen, so the Brute's war cry can detonate them too.
O kurwa.
Unearth was changed to work on corpses of your
Kaskadowe
dead
efekty
skeletons,
na
allowing you to summon the minions more easily in boss fights. And they also
miniona.
got a new jump ability, allowing them to get into combat faster.
Jest! Kurwa, coś wreszcie z
Grey Spectre
doskokiem!
was also feeling pretty weak for the spirit
Kilka
cost they
dni
had.
temu mówiłem, że musi być coś na
To be
zasadzie
honest,
Feeding
we were a little
Frenzy na
afraid of
mobach,
these when
żeby
we
się
first
rzucały
announced
i mają
We've
doskok.
both decreased the spirit cost for a large range of monsters and just
Mesjasz,
They
stary.
should feel a lot more impactful. There's also a lot of new spellcaster weapons with newer cult skills. But I'll just talk about one of them that I
Nie
thought
wiem,
was
czy chcę
particularly
kurwa
cool.
może summonerem. Nie,
The
jebać
Reaping
summonerem.
Staff is actually a wicked scythe that gives you a new ability called Reap. When an enemy is low in life, you can dash forward and rake enemies with the scythe
Cooling
to
strike.
cull them instantly. Healing.
Zajebiście.
It can also inflict
Mechanika
critical weakness
dobicia
on enemies
dodana
too.
do
Now,
Necromancera.
there's a lot of balance changes in the Witcher's Ascendancy
To
classes,
fajne
but I'll
w
just
chuj.
talk about two of them for now. On the Blood Mage, you were previously required to spend your first points on Sangomancy, which really was supposed to be the downside for being able to access the powerful abilities on the rest of the class. In order to
Wypierdalamy
make
to.
picking the Blood Mage a better early option, we made Sangomancy free, unlocking the power of the rest of the class immediately.
Zajebiście.
On the Infernalist, the Demon form wasn't something people were really using because you lost your weapon stats while
No,
transforming.
Blood Mage był taki, że
Well,
lepsza
you no
była
longer do, so
Witchka
it's a
niż
much
Blood
better
Mage.
option now.
To był bekę z
On the
tego
Monk, the
konfili.
wind skills needed a big upgrade for sure. Staggering Palm can now stack up its duration if you use the skill multiple times in a row, so you can keep the effect of all your skills throwing up wind much more easily. Wind Blast had the purpose of building up to dazing an enemy, but dazing just wasn't worth all that effort. Now it just dazes on hit, meaning a
Weź,
single
że
Wind
flicker
Blast will make
będzie
all your
możliwy do
skills stun
zrobienia.
enemies more easily. Following up with Vaulting Impact on a dazed enemy previously did a bunch of stun. Now it allows you to break your enemy's stance. When their stance is broken, following up with a fast attack will do way more damage. A cool build that certain people always enjoyed in PoE 1 was hand-to-hand combat, but until now we just didn't have a real way to make it viable.
Flicker, błagam.
Well, that changes now. The monk, as a true martial artist, now has the ability to learn the hollow palm technique, a keystone that lets you use all quarterstaff skills while unarmed.
O, stat
A
stacking.
new keystone we also
To
added to
zawsze
the monk
idzie w
section
taką
of the tree
stronę.
is Walker of the Wilds. This changes mana leech to work with elemental
Wiecie, co
damage
się
instead
kurwa
of
dzieje
physical,
ze stat stackingiem, nie?
which is pretty useful
O,
for
już
all those
wiadomo, co
elemental
będzie
attacks the monk
broken.
had, but it works well for the ranger too.
S-stacker.
Now, one of the least used ascendancy classes in
Wypuśćcie
the game is the
druida,
Acolyte of
żeby
Shadula.
nikt nie grał
We knew we
Dexem,
needed
ja
to
gram
make some changes
Dexem.
here. One of the key things we had to do was make the chaos damage that the Acolyte can do
S-stacker,
much.
który w momencie, gdy w tej grze masz
So
Queen
we've
of the
added a new
Forest,
skill, allowing chaos damage
prawda,
to
on jest po nerfie,
shock, chill, and free,
ale
embracing
wyobrażacie
the elemental
sobie?
prowess of the monk in a truly chaotic fashion. In addition, he can make all of his chaos damage leech. And we've buffed Into the Breach and Embrace the Darkness by moving the effects of the 4-point nodes into the base skills.
Mnie konie jara
He
akurat.
also gains a new notable, Grasp
Shadula.
of the Void, which leaves void illusions behind you as you dodge roll. If they're killed, they do massive explosions of darkness, dealing damage to everything in sight. Now let's talk about sorceress skills. One of the things we wanted to improve on the Sorc is the ability to use multiple elements together more effectively. Now, this might seem small, but one of the things pushing you towards using a single element is debuffs like Elemental Curses, which lower resistances of a single element. In order to fix that, we're making quite a lot of game-wide changes to these kinds of mechanics to broaden what they apply to.
O kurde.
So for example, there's no longer 3 curses for fire, ice, and lightning.
Jest ale weakness po
Instead, there's just
prostu.
a single curse that buffs all 3 at the same
Zajebiście.
time.
A to do
And
party
things like
playu
Frostbomb, which
gigabuff.
give you cold exposure, now give elemental exposure to buff any of your other skills.
Ale to jest buff do party playu.
We also wanted to make switching between different weapon sets smoother, so you can use different elemental staves more effectively. To do that, we've removed the weapon switch time. It now happens
Zajebiście.
instantly. This applies game-wide too. Now we didn't just want to stop there. We wanted to add
Ty
some
to na dwa
specific
stafy
mechanics
teraz
that work
grasz.
between different elements.
Chyba
And that's
zawsze
where
będziesz
elemental
grał na dwa
infusions
stafy,
come
jak
in.
będziesz łączył dwa skille.
Certain skills can now drop elemental infusions. For example, when a frost bomb explodes, it leaves behind a cold infusion on the ground. After picking it up, you can spend it on one of any number of different skills to transform how they work.
Inwołkowy system.
Spark will create a nova of cold infused projectiles.
O chuj.
Ice a
Inwołka.
chilled area on the ground.
Ale zajebiście.
And we also added a new low-level skill that fires ice shards. Use it with cold infusion though, and the ice shards will explode.
Ale będą
All the
zmiany na
storm now
stosy
generates
teraz
lightning
w trybie.
infusions when you cast enough spells near it. And that's all spells, by the way, not just lightning. Once you have one, you could cast a lightning flame wall, which adds both fire and lightning damage to all the projectiles that pass through it. Or power up
Zajebiście,
in the
że się
fusillade with lightning,
wieloma
which will
życiami
generate
grać.
arcs to nearby enemies as each fireball hits. Or maybe go lightning on lightning with arc. This skill is now a projectile, and by infusing it, you can go full Palpatine.
Projectile na
Get fire
arku.
infusion monsters with
I
living
co,
bombs.
będziesz raz kastował i
Then
będziesz
use
miał
them with
multiple
Comet to summon a
projectiles,
giant
że dawał
from the sky.
3 chainujące się
Or
te?
Firestorm, which transforms it from a small area into a much bigger one. Firestorm is unique in that it can be infused by multiple different elements at the same time. Add an ice infusion to rain down ice at the same time as the fire. And add lightning to add deadly strikes from the heavens into the mix. Or use it with all three to generate a storm that is truly apocalyptic.
O.
Cold Snap has been simply turned into Snap. Previously, you could use it to shatter ice, but now it
Jezu.
works to detonate all of the different elemental ailments and make some leave behind infusions. And just like how you could previously use it on Frostbolt, you can now also
Wyobrażacie
use
sobie
it on all the
snapowanie
storms
szoka
and
z
soul
bonus
orb to detonate
damage'em od
those as
szoka
well,
zbuffowanym
which
na
means you can create many
30%.
infusions at once. We also have a Spirit Reservation skill and a support gem to help generate them too. On the passive tree, we've added quite a few new keystones to the Sorceress section. Here are a couple
O,
of examples. The Black Flame Covenant keystone converts your fire spells to chaos and causes your ignites to deal chaos damage. Your fire spells and ignites will also turn purple. The Ritual Cadence keystone causes your invocation skills to trigger more times. It makes them trigger periodically over a longer duration instead of one. Great for those auto bomber builds.
też fajne. Do auto,
Now, in
no.
addition to skill changes, we've added a
Ciekawe,
lot
czy
more
zadziałają
options for the passive tree
autobomberzy
for each
znowu.
class. Overall, there are more than 100 new notables on the tree, usually around 20 per class, along with smaller clusters as well. Check out the old version, and here's the new version.
O
It's a
kurwa.
lot more dense, and there's more interesting nodes than before.
Zajebiście, no bo to były takie
Now, we
rzeczy, że
probably
no nie
can't
było
go through
wyboru
too
na
many of
rangerce.
these
Te
in the live
buildy były w
stream, so I'll just show you one from each
95%
class's
identyczne,
area of
nie?
the tree. We tried to be a lot more thematic with the new nodes. So for example, the Molten One's Gift. It lets the benefit of armor break apply to your fire damage. Or how about Last Stand, which gives you lots of stats as your situation becomes more and more desperate.
O, fajne też,
A lot
kurwa.
of these have themes aligning with ascendancy classes. Like for the Gemling Legionnaire, for example. You have crystallized immunities, which makes you immune to different status ailments, depending on which support gem color you have socketed the most.
Zajebiste. Immune to shock, stary, i chuj.
Another ascendancy
Na
class
jakim
line
kolorze
notable
to
is
było
Sanguimatic
Immune to Shock?
Rituals. It allows arcane surges to generate life instead of mana, unlocking that support gem to be used with the Blood Mage Ascendancy. In the Sork area, you'll find these Archon nodes that allow you to convert all of your elemental damage to a specific element. You become a Lightning Archon when you spend enough mana, after which all your skills will be converted to lightning, and you will do extra lightning damage as well. We have ones for cold and fire too, with different triggers.
Fajne.
Here's another cool one. Elemental Practitioner gives crit bonuses if you've triggered a skill recently, while also making crits generate more energy for triggers. Or maybe you'd like the Great Boar. It gives you a reason to stack dexterity to make you tougher, giving a bonus to life and stun threshold.
Ej, Dex
Or
daje
the
nadal...
Cunning, it straight up gives you 5%
Evasion?
quality to all your gems.
Poczekaj.
Now changes attribute requirements. We felt like players probably had a few too many nodes and attributes and not enough in interesting passives. So we lowered attribute requirements by 25% across the board.
Dex będzie dawał ci teraz
That
i
means you'll have
życie,
more
i
points to spend on
evasion, a
interesting
evasion
notables
daje
rather
ci
than
attack
just needing to
speed?
allocate more strength, dex, and int.
To nie brzmi jak
But there are way
zbalansowana
more
rzecz.
changes than just these. These are just some of the cooler ones we wanted to show off.
Ja pierdolę.
But I'd
Nie,
say
no
that's
ja
just
gram
about enough for
Dexem,
now.
100%.
So I think it's time to lead
Dex
the
Stackerem.
rise of the Abyssal. And
Ej,
to
a
do
te,
that, I'd like to hand
te
things over to
rękawiczki
Mark.
były na instakich, nie? Nie były na
As you just
Dexa.
saw, even though there are major changes to the campaign for this
Queen
update,
of the Forest,
we want to make sure that
stakowanie
every time
Dexa,
you come back from
Evasion,
expansion,
jak największy
each
atak
area
speed i
feels
życie.
different with something extra
I grasz
going on.
jeszcze na Monku z
It is
SM.
really important to make sure your experience when returning between
Jest jakiś
expansions
item na
is
stakowanie
fresh and
Dexa,
filled with new
typowo?
content. And the
Albo
way we did
Evasion
this was
dodatkowy?
through leagues. Every expansion we make has a league, which not only has a fresh economy, but also has new content exclusively available in that league.
Ej, a przecież Monk
So,
Invoker
let's delve into
od
the details
Evasion
of what
jeszcze
Path of Exile
konwertował
2's
w Armor,
first
czy coś
official
takiego?
league is
Jaki
bringing
jest
to the
item na
table.
Dex?
The Abyssal are a race that have mastery of forbidden magics and necromancy. They were thought to be extinct, but have merely been biding their time underground. You first encounter signs of the Abyssal in Clearfell, where you discover that during the night,
Ręce znają
weaker
atak
members of
speed
the Undead Legion
z
have been
Dexa,
attacking
a
the
to są te, co...
encampment. The townsfolk require your
dają
help to investigate where the
inta
monsters are
damage?
coming from
Też?
and put a stop to their attacks.
Out there.
I w damage reduction. Ja nie, kurwa, jak na stary mod.
You'll find fissures in the earth connected to larger pits. The monsters normally inhabiting the area are being affected by
Tylko
it,
może
harmed
ręcerka
by
ma
it
jakieś
even,
lepsze
having their souls eaten
bonusy,
to strengthen the
albo
Abyssal
handpreska
underground.
do Evasion, do Dexa,
As
ale
you
nie
defeat the
wiem,
monsters,
zobaczymy.
the fissure closes and
Ale
Abyssal
no.
emerge, angered by you killing their food. Once all those fissures have been sealed, the pit activates, and more Abyssal pour out. This is where the larger and more dangerous monsters reveal themselves, as
Ale
hordes of
beka,
Abyssal
że się
spew
naśmiałem
out
z
from the
Dexi
pit to
zerów,
take
a
your
w połę
soul.
gram Dexem. Handreskę
If
będzie
you kill a
broken.
magic pack,
Handreskę
then
mogą
magic
znerfić
Abyssal
trochę.
arise. If you kill a rare, then a rare monster will emerge from the pit, having absorbed some or all of its modifiers for itself. They'll
Dex daje
generally be more
Evasion w
difficult
połę 2?
and more rewarding, as each modifier gives better
Dzięki
rewards.
Borysowi za dychę. Oni już dawno to zrobili.
If you
A
are
nie było
able
tak,
to
że
kill
tylko
them all,
accuracy
the
dawało,
pit
że oni
will seal
ściągnęli
shut.
to z Dexa
As each pit is
Evasion?
closed, it reveals a potential reward. Abyssal troves will rise up out of the pits, allowing you to get some epic loot.
Dex daje Evasion i accuracy. Okej.
Areas often contain many pits, with many fissures, and the
Nie wiem,
amount
miałem
goes up as you
wrażenie,
progress
że
through the
to
game,
Evasion
getting
było
more
ściągnięte w
intense.
P2, ale może mi się pojebało
It doesn't
coś.
stop there. When monster mods are absorbed, they have a chance to become infused with the dark necromancy, transforming them into abyssal modifiers. For example,
To
you
ściągnęli
defeat
z
this monster with the
Inta
mana siphoner
Esa, nie?
modifier.
Chyba.
Their soul is eaten by the pit, and a rare monster emerges. The mana siphoner modifier has transformed into soul
No nie?
siphoner, and is now amplified in
Czy nie?
danger and reward.
To w Incie ściągnęli, nie? Bonus. Chyba to
Abyssal
też
pits
stało.
also interact with other monsters and mechanics. If you defeat a rogue exile that's near one, it'll be revived as a Lichborn that has multiple abyssal modifiers. Lichborn exiles even have their own unique jewel
Int
they
daje
can
tylko
drop,
manę. Dobra,
if you
to
are
na
lucky enough
Incie
to
było
encounter
zdjęte.
and kill
No
them.
właśnie.
If an
Ale
abyss
Dex
spawns near
daje,
a boss,
a może
will summon a
zmienią.
gigantic
Ale
giga
Dex
larvae
daje
creature.
Evasion i chuj. To Dex daje ci teraz
Monsters imprisoned in essences near abyssal
accuracy,
pits are affected by
który
the
daje
abyss
ci
too.
na Huntressce
They
kryta,
will come with an additional new essence item
z
that
drzewka
can
ci
be
daje
used to craft
życie
your items.
i daje ci jeszcze Evasion.
So, that's your
A
bread and butter
Evasion
of the
ci daje
Abyssal.
jeszcze
Kill
teraz masz
surface dwelling
spell
monsters,
suppressa na
kill the
Evasion.
emerging Abyssal, close the fissures,
Daje
overcome
tylko
pit
accuracy. No to
encounters,
dobrze
and reap the
pamiętałem.
rewards.
Czyli nie daje Evasion Dex,
There's a
okej.
lot more to this league, however. As you complete abysses, you can find ancient pieces of
No to
bone,
dzięki za info,
preserved
Kiszak.
from the remains of fallen Lichborn. These are one of the many rewards for your mission to seal the pits.
Czyli pierdolicie głupoty, widzowie, z
You
po
can
jeden,
use this on a
pamiętacie?
rare item to imbue it with abyssal magic, adding
Dex
a
daje tylko
special hidden
accuracy. No
modifier
to
item.
mówiłem wam.
But how do you reveal it? In Act 2 of the campaign, you'll encounter a new area. This area is overrun by the Abyssal and the Lost Men. After clearing through this area, you'll find the Well of Souls, a giant cavity with a massive vortex of souls swirling beneath you. So how do you reveal the mods on your Abyssal-infused items? Obviously, just throw them in, right? Yes, that's exactly what you do. Before throwing it in, you are given the option of how you want to transform it, in the form of a choice of 3 different modifiers.
Fajne.
Once you've chosen your desired mod, throw it in, where it will absorb the power of the souls and the ominous creature will then retrieve it for you.
Kurwa, jest tej masy
These
rzucania tym.
modifiers can be ones from the core mod pool, all the way through to specialized modifiers that cannot normally appear on items. During the campaign, you can use it as a way to more easily add useful existing mods, but during the endgame,
Fajny łuczek,
there is a
kurwa.
whole set of new and powerful mods you can add to your items. Like this mod for crossbows, that allows you to place an additional ballista totem.
Ej, to była nowa baza, Gemini
This
Go?
one that adds spirit
Ja
to your
dobrze
staff.
widziałem?
Or this one that allows you to generate more combo with your quarterstaff skills.
Dlatego miała
And
taki
speaking of
damage, kurwa.
endgame,
Patrz, to jest za
you can
dual
also
strength,
use
taki
them to
damage,
craft
nie?
waystones. With a preserved vertebrae fused into your waystones, you can get some new modifiers that push difficulty and rewards to new heights. Here are some examples of those mods. You always get a choice of 3, so you can avoid anything you don't think your character is capable of. With this modifier, the natural inhabitants of the area are all spawned near abysses, and there are up to 9 additional abyssal pits in the area, making it just a full-on abyss ruckus. Or this one, which causes the final abyssal pit in the area to always result in a boss encounter, be it either one underground or one that emerges out. There are dozens of these waystone modifiers in total you can get from this crafting. That covers the new crafting mechanic. So what's left? Well, we talked about how when closing pits you can get abyssal troves, but sometimes when closing an abyss, you'll reveal an underground cavern that leads to the abyssal
A, już
depths.
nie ma ekspertów advancedów, tylko miał nazwę.
After
jeśli
jumping
to nie
into
jest
the
nowa
depths,
nazwa,
you'll
okej.
find an abyssal city, swarming with legions of the undead.
Staty pewnie te same będą.
When underground, every single rare abyssal enemy will have an abyssal modifier. And at the end of the dungeon, you'll even find a rare with a more powerful Lichborn modifier. Once you're able to defeat this powerful rare, you can also find some nice rewards. Aside from the entire area being valuable due to the abyssal modifiers on the monsters, it has its own specific drops too. One example is a set of lineage supports that can rarely be found in these depths, like Kurgel's Leash. This support empowers both you and your minions when you command them, granting unholy might to you both. Another depth-specific outcome is a set of omen-like items that amplify your abyssal crafting. Additionally, we're adding some new socketables that can drop from the abyssal depths. Take Ulaman's Gaze, which can be socketed into your armor. These are a bit special in that you can only have one equipped at a time, but give some pretty powerful effects. Think of them as almost a unique socketable for your equipment.
Fajne.
In the endgame, where you can still find depths, you also start to find a different type of underground chamber. In these areas, you'll find an
Nie
ancient
widziałem
spire,
tego Greater
a
Orb of
device being
Augmentation.
used by
Co on robił?
commanders of the abyssal factions to plunge Rayclast into a lightless void. Your goal is simple. Kill this commander and destroy the spire. There are 4 bosses in the Abyss League, and there are some pretty cool uniques available from them. An example is this belt, Darkness Enthroned. It has 2 sockets. But hold on, socketables don't work on belts. Well, this belt has a special mod that allows it to count as a different slot for the purpose of
O
socketables.
kurwa.
This one, for
Zajebiste.
example, counts as a helmet. I kind of want one that counts as a body armor. I wonder how rare that one is. You can also find this unique jewel, Undying Hate. This jewel transforms part of your passive skill tree into an abyssal version, and has multiple depths. The deeper it goes, the more of your passive tree is affected, allowing you to fulfill your fantasy of becoming part Abyssal Lich. Now, the last thing that Abyssal commanders can drop is a Finger of the Lich. But what use do you have with a random undead finger? Well, the next time you return to the Well of Souls, with the finger in your inventory, your character will almost feel compelled. To do what, though, you might ask? To jump in. The items you threw in came back more powerful, right? So what's the worst that could happen? Well, you will just have to find that one out for yourself.
O,
Along with the introduction of Act 4 and the Interlude, we will be adding 25 new in-game maps.
Uberek nowy.
These maps will contain all the new monsters and bosses we're adding, improving variety and giving you opportunities to experience the new boss fights many times. Let's take a look at some examples. Rock Pools is a map where you explore a shallow rocky coastline, surrounded by coral and filled with sirens. At the end is a giant Goblin King boss, ready to eat sulfite and squish you like a bug. Holton is an Ezomite township which has seen better days. Explore and clear the township to find a gothic, Reaper-like boss, with the ability to manipulate storms and fry you with both lightning and wither you with chaos. Given some of the new bosses added are a bit more epic, such as the Act boss and final bosses of each interlude part, it would be a bit of a waste to just use them as regular map bosses. Instead, we'll be adding some new mechanics to the Atlas that use them. These start appearing pretty fast into the endgame and will help bridge the gap until you do your pinnacle bosses. In the desert biome, you can encounter a wild sandstorm. 3 maps around the sandstorm contain a device you must activate. Upon doing this, the sandstorm's magic is disrupted, revealing the map inside and allowing you to access it and find the cause. This presents itself in the form of a boss, similar to the existing Citadel bosses. This boss is a Faradin Swordmaster, who has been blessed with the power of a time gem, allowing him to take his swordsmanship to the next level by
Fajna arena,
replicating
nie?
himself, maneuvering rapidly, and severing the fabric of time itself with his
Ja
powerful
mam
slashes.
strasznie kurwa neuron aktywowany teraz,
In the
no
water
nie?
biome, you'll
I myślę
encounter a
tylko już
giant
o tym,
maelstrom,
żeby
where one of
wejść
the
do
maps
poba i
surrounding the water
zrobić swój
biome
buildzik
connects to
jakiś.
it, but the connection is
Ja
obscured.
pierdolę.
You must run the maps nearby, hoping to find a beacon, which will remove the maelstrom and reveal the connection to that map.
Muszę zobaczyć te zmiany.
Another example is this Vaal vault in the mountain biome. But how do we get inside? Running the adjacent maps to it will yield a key, which you can then use to gain access to this vault. Or, you could just trade for one, I guess. Use the key to dispel the powerful force field surrounding it, leading to the Vaal Elite and their rewards inside. These all contain Uber versions of the Act 4 boss, and the bosses at the end of each part of the interlude. And each have their own exclusive drop pool of new lineage supports, which, as Jonathan spoke about earlier, are powerful support gems that modify your skills in pretty crazy ways. As an example of a lineage support which can come from the Faradin Swordmaster mentioned earlier, we have Garukhan's Resolve, which causes your critical strikes to fork, but requires some mobility on your part to properly enable. From the boss sealed in the Vaal Vault, we have Paquate's Pact, which supports your war cries, causing them to inflict massive amounts of corrupted blood at
Corrupted
the cost
blood,
of your
kurwa.
own life.
Nice.
Additionally, some maps can now spawn summoning circles, a room resembling an Ezomite henge. Activating this henge will spawn bosses. It's as simple as that. We'll also be making changes to how affixes and waystones work, as the current prefixes equals good, suffixes equals bad iteration isn't quite hitting the mark. We tried something new here in Path of Exile 2, but after seeing the feedback we decided we actually liked what we had in Path of Exile 1 more. Like Path of Exile 1, each affix will now be both difficult and rewarding. Waystone mods now grant an increase to the number of waystones dropped, and an additional specific upside attached to it. This means as you roll your map, they will continue to get more difficult and more rewarding, and allow you to customize the difficulty and rewards of your maps better. For
Czyli
example, the Frostbitten mod, which causes enemies to deal cold damage, also increases the rarity of items dropped as its
zajebiście.
upside. Whereas the of Venom suffix modifier, which causes enemies to poison on hit, has the upside of granting increased pack size. Some maps will end up having a lot of rarity, some a lot of pack size, and
Ciekawe
others
jestem,
will
do
just
czego
have
się
a
będzie
mixture of everything.
Due to now
dopierdalało
having
more modifiers granting
do jakich
difficulty,
liczb teraz
we
te
will of
mapy.
course be reducing the difficulty per modifier to account for this. So, that's your atlas, maps, and waystones. But what about breach, ritual, pinnacle
Będą chyba
content,
bardziej
and others of the
wyczusowane
sort?
mapy teraz, nie?
We're making some changes around this too. The first change is that you'll now be able to invest 2 points into your specific League Atlas trees before having to run the pinnacle content. There will be a specific objective for each type of content which grants you those points. For example, in the case of Delirium, it's simple. You just need to find and kill one of the bosses in
Fajnie
a
się
map,
ekran świeci.
Omniphobia or
Podoba mi
Process.
się ten warrior.
The rest of the points for each content come from the pinnacle content, but we're making some changes to accessibility here too. Currently, access to most pinnacle content requires
Ej,
the same
zdropią
key
druida,
at the
myślicie,
easiest
czy nie?
and most difficult
Teasują na
version
sam
of the
koniec?
content. This creates a negative feeling where at lower
I pokażą,
difficulties,
dodajemy
instead of
jeszcze
wanting to
druida.
run the content, you're often better off just selling it to someone who can run it at maximum difficulty. To address this, each content will now drop splinters, which will not form into singular items. Instead of using the singular combined item in the realm gate, you can now just bring your splinters. Upon inserting the splinters into the realm gate, an interface will appear, allowing you to pick your difficulty, and you'll notice each difficulty has a different entry cost. This means if you want to run easier difficulties, it costs less, which
That's
also
fine.
allows you to run this content much sooner into the endgame. Because these encounters now just require splinters, their corresponding atlas tree no longer affects the difficulty of them, and has been changed to purely affect the content and maps on the atlas. The Arbiter of Ash works a bit differently. Instead of requiring splinters, he still needs crisis fragments. We now have only 2 difficulties of the Arbiter. The first, requiring the existing fragments obtained from citadels. The second, Uber Arbiter, requires calamity fragments. These come from citadel bosses also, but
To
only
samo w
once you've
jedynce, nie?
allocated the
Zrobili z
maximum number
Uberami,
of
że
points
są
in your
małe i
boss
duże
atlas tree,
wejściówki.
ensuring those citadels are
Bo
at their
robienie
highest
małych
difficulty
wejściówek
level.
nigdy nie miało sensu, bo
Since
zawsze chcieliś
we're
wejść
talking
Ubera,
about
bo
pinnacle
większy
content,
profit był,
we
nie?
also felt that the
A tą
leveling
samą
curve
cenę
in the
miało.
late game was a bit too steep. We've smoothed this out a bit so that it's easier to get to the mid-90s. We've also added some new in-game unique items. Let's take a look at a couple.
Dawaj uniki. Dawaj coś na
Thunderfist is a
teksta.
pair of gloves that grants Crackling Palm, a skill which empowers your unarmed attacks, granting the ability to call down the storms themselves on
Ja
enemies you
pierdolę,
hit.
do mela ataków znowu,
Put
kurwa, do
simply,
tego stakera.
Literally every monster you hit with your unarmed skills will be struck by powerful lightning.
Nie, oni są świadomi.
Here, the aforementioned hollow palm technique to embrace your true unarmed prowess in combat.
Widzowie, kupujcie na masówę
Another
te
we're adding is
rękawiczki.
Henekura's Sight. Equip this amulet to be granted the power of the Mother of Death herself. This is reflected by granting you a skill called Foresight. While you have Foresight, your dodge roll no longer avoids hits. But instead,
kurwa, no nie
being hit while
mogę
dodge
grać.
rolling restores you to full life and makes you unable to die for a brief period of time.
Co?
You'll notice when this does occur, a copy of your character appears and takes the full damage. This is you seeing that future, as if you hadn't been wearing the amulet. Ultimately, your in-game experience should be more streamlined, with new content to
Nie,
find.
kurwa,
You'll be
mam
able to invest
ten,
in your Atlas tree
mam
sooner,
broken.
engage with pinnacle content faster, have less FOMO running said pinnacle content,
Dajcie jeszcze
reach
flickera
higher
pod
levels
listy
easier,
i ja już
and
jestem w
do all
domu.
of that while finding many new chase in-game items. Talking about finding items is one thing, but what about crafting them?
Oho.
We've taken a step back and looked at some of our crafting systems to make some notable improvements. Let's start with essences, which suffered from an issue where the regular essences were effectively useless and didn't give players the tools or excitement that a crafting system should provide. To alleviate these concerns, essences are being changed in a few ways.
Oho.
Firstly, they're being changed to function like regals and add specific modifiers
Oh.
with specific values, meaning you know exactly what you're going to get.
O!
We found that players were often bottlenecked by regal orbs when crafting in the campaign, so this helps to fill that gap, allowing you to better upgrade your items. For example, this Lesser Essence of Flames, which will be able to add a flat amount of fire damage to your magic martial weapons.
Zajebiście.
Secondly, we're adding many more tiers.
Nie, Hands of Wisdom
That
and
Lesser
Actions
Essence
to
of Flames, for
wyjebania.
example,
Przecież
has
są
a
kurwa
regular
lepsze
variant
pod to.
and a greater variant too, adding even more fire damage with each upgrade. The intention of this is so that when you find one early on, you don't worry about holding onto it till later to use on a higher level item. You should feel free to use them as they come to get powerful upgrades during the campaign. Lastly, our highest tier of essences, now called Perfect Essences, will function like a Chaos Orb instead of a Regal. So it will replace one of the modifiers on your rare items with the specified mod,
Kurwa, no jaka to jest
such as this
zajebista
Perfect Essence
zmiana.
of Flames. You'll notice
Normalnie
this one doesn't
najwyższy
just
tier
add flat
esencji
fire
możesz
damage
na
like the
kurwa
ones before it.
skraftowany item
The
zrobić,
Perfect Essences often give something a bit
któremu
different,
czegoś
with
brakuje.
some opportunities to be pretty damn powerful.
Może być końcówką
There are
craftu, a
many
nie
different
początkiem.
essences, each with many tiers, covering many of the more core modifiers
To
you
jest
want on items
zajebiste.
early on, through to chase specialized ones for endgame. Speaking of endgame, we really wanted to expand our crafting options for late endgame crafting projects. You might have noticed that at endgame, you
Ale
get
co, pewnie jedna
way too
esencja
many
na item i
transmutes.
tak w takim razie, nie?
Wouldn't
Ta
it be nice
końcowa.
if some of
To
those
nie będzie jak
didn't
stare
drop,
esencje, że
but
będziesz mógł
instead you
spamować
got
item
something a little more
esencją.
powerful? At higher levels, you can now find Greater Orb of Transmutation and Perfect Orb of Transmutation.
Co to zmienia?
These can be used on normal items to upgrade them to magic,
Wyższy
ensuring
tier?
that the modifier generated is of a minimum level.
Ja pierdolę,
This is similar to
zajebiście.
how you find higher tier items on the ground, but for crafting. These higher tiers will also exist for Orb of Augmentation,
Czyli ogarnęli system, jak
Regal
można
Orb.
zrobić.
Exalted Orb, and Chaos Orb, meaning you can get all of the orbs required to take your item from normal rarity to a fully
Czyli
completed
bez
rare
kitu,
with
bardziej
guaranteed high
ten.
tier mods. On top of these new core
Bardziej
crafting
deterministyczny
currencies,
crafting na
we
wyższych
wanted to
tirach.
make sure there are powerful crafting bases to use them on. Now in endgame, you can start to find
One
exceptional
chaosują
items.
item, ale
These
stary
are items that
chaos
drop at
zmieni ci
normal
jeden
rarity
afix.
and are perfect for your from scratch crafting projects.
Q2.
They can come with extra quality,
Więc jak
up to
skasujesz i
30%,
wsadzisz na
or
niego
an additional
weź
socket to
tam
use your
additional
crafting
damage z
socketables in.
fire,
And
tak jak dasz
yes,
drugiego
they
tego
can be
samego, no
corrupted
to
for yet another
co się
socket.
stanie?
You can also get exceptional unique items. To add even further to your crafting arsenal, we've added a whole suite of new omens to ritual content, and removed some of the more unimpactful ones that weren't being used. Some of the new omens include the Omen of the Ancients, which will cause your next Orb of Chance to not destroy the item, but generate a random unique of the same class. Or the Omen of Sanctification, which is my new favorite. This will cause your next Divine Orb used on a rare item to reroll the values of its modifiers, allowing it to exceed the normal minimum and maximum values, raising the ceiling on the new most powerful rare items in the game. This omen will also cause your item to become sanctified. Sanctified items cannot be crafted, just like corrupted ones, so consider carefully when you use this.
Nie rozumiem.
Another is the Omen of
Zasięg
Chaotic
rolek
Monsters,
zwiększa?
which will cause your next Chaos Orb to reroll all modifiers on a Waystone, allowing you to fix your maps if you get some modifiers that are not feasible for your
A
build.
można go potem jeszcze raz zdivinować?
Besides these examples, there is a huge variety of new omens for
Czy
you
to
to
już jest
discover
koniec?
in your ritual encounters.
Nie. To
Leads back
kraftowalny
four,
divine taki
notably
sejmi,
taking
nie?
place in the Cardori
To
Archipelago,
dobre.
you'll be able to now find a new currency
Jeden
item.
strzał masz.
Henikora's Lock. Henikora, the Cardori goddess of death, has the power of foresight and is able to see many futures, including the outcome of your next craft. So, imbuing her lock onto an item gives you that same power too. For example, you'll know whether or not to use an Exalted Orb on your item, as you will know exactly what the
Zajebiście, że
outcome
jest
is.
Kinekora. To było w jedynce
So,
już, nie?
with all these new crafting improvements, it's safe to say you're going to be making some epic items. And
Kurwa.
not necessarily just ones for yourself. So given that, it's time to talk about a massive one. Trade. It's finally here. The moment we've all been waiting for.
Druid.
Fully asynchronous trade. Over the years, the way players trade with each other in Path of Exile 1
O
has
kurwa.
morphed from using the forums
Automatyczny
through to the
trade.
in-game chat, all the way through to using the website. These systems, in all their iterations, work for a while.
Wreszcie
but
nie
with
będzie
each
price
iteration,
settingu,
new probably reveal themselves.
bo jak
Be it
wystawić to
requiring
automatycznie
you to be in your
sprzeda.
hideout too much instead of out there killing monsters, or never getting responses from people who are either AFK or just can't be bothered.
Ja pierdolę, wreszcie te szmaty
In
będą
order to finally
wyeliminowane.
solve this, and this has been a long time coming, we're adding a new system that allows you to buy items from other players without requiring the seller to be present. They can continue farming, killing monsters, AFK as they please, and can even be offline. With the introduction of
Wiecie, że oni tym concurrent playerów będą farmić?
Assistant to
Nie,
Rod
bo
in the
nie
Meridian
musisz
Free
być online,
Traders
to nie
Company.
będą, co ja pierdolę.
Over the last 2 decades or so,
Nie
since
musisz
Path
być
of Exile
zalogowany,
1's
możesz być
storyline,
offline.
Faustus has handed down his knowledge and expertise to Ange, and she is now ready to take over his business.
Ale
If you
będzie
have
się
a hideout
zajebiście
unlocked
zalogować
already,
po nocy,
you can
nie?
immediately invite her there. If you don't have a hideout yet, you will need to acquire one.
Ej,
You can
a
do
jak
this
teraz
by
będziesz
completing
sprawdzał
the quest to
ceny?
defeat one of the
Wystawisz
bosses
item,
inhabiting
będziesz
an
chciał
island in
sprawdzić
Act
jego
4.
cenę i ci nie
Allowing
przyjdzie
you then to take
20
a slice
kurwa
of it for
ofert
yourself,
i nie zobaczysz, że item
making
jest
it your
więcej
new
wart,
home
tylko się
and base of
sterolujesz.
operations.
Będzie kurwa można
Once
skautować
invited to your
stary
hideout,
ten.
she will now
Rynek.
serve as operating your
O
currency
chuj!
exchange, but
Ale się
also
chciał
serve as the
zatrollować
figurehead
albo
in your
zarobić.
new trading empire.
O,
So, how does this new system work? In the existing trade system, you
Nie,
would
to ja
list
gram w
items for
trade'a.
sale in premium stash tabs.
tak z tym ja gram w
And then when
trade'a.
someone wanted one, you'd have to take it out for yourself and trade it to them. Now, instead of using those, you can give your items to Ange so she can sell them for you. Each item must have a price set. The prices are set using in-game currency items, such as Exalted Orbs or Chaos Orbs. Once a price is set, other players will be able to find the item by searching for it on the trade website. Once a desired item has been found, you can hit a button, which will instantly teleport your character in-game to their hideout. Then, you can immediately purchase the item. And while there, if you want, browse their other goods. In
O,
case there's a good deal, someone else has it.
ale jaja.
You'll notice that as a buyer, on top of the currency the seller set for the price, it also costs gold to purchase an item, as Ange has bills to pay after all. As a seller, you'll immediately receive a notification when an item of yours is sold, and can also see an effect above Ange in your hideout when she has unclaimed currency.
Ja fale.
Just go talk to her, claim your currency, and continue playing at your leisure. As many people already acquired premium stash tabs for the purpose of the trade system, we wanted to add a way for you to convert your existing tabs to merchants tabs, if you want. You can do that here, on the website, but
Zajebiście.
only if you purchase those tabs before the release of the third edict. To clarify, the existing trade system will remain fully intact, so your premium stash tabs will not lose any of their functionality. We just figured people might want to switch over to this new system.
No pewnie.
We expect a lot of feedback around this new system and are looking forward to trying it out with you. As we are not able to test internally with an entire thriving economy,
Ale to premium
there will
staby
certainly
tylko
be
można
some
przerobić?
things to work out.
Tylko tak,
Based on
nie?
how the
Tylko
system
premiumy.
goes, we will be adding it to Path of Exile 1 when ready, so any of the tabs you purchase will also be usable there later.
Fajnie,
Next
bo
up, we're going
dużo
to be talking about
tanich
our new
itemów będzie
supporter
można
packs.
wystawiać do takiego pasywnego
Today,
dochodu.
we're launching
No
two
wystawialiście
new
itemy
series
za
of
kurwa
supporter
jednego
packs.
eksa, nie, a teraz
The
stary
Justice
wychodzisz,
and
rzucasz
Traffic
jelo.
Executioner packs. Each tier contains the pack's full face value in points, alongside several exclusive microtransactions. As always, the microtransactions in these packs are purely cosmetic and do not affect your character's power or progression in any way.
Chujowo, że nie ma.
The
Dajcie
Justice
druida,
series
bo
of
ja chcę
supporter
tekstem
packs
zagrać.
contains 6 exclusive microtransactions. Claim glory after defeating enemies, or inspire your allies by calling down the Banner of Justice portal. The Sphinx Mystic hideout decoration will identify items for you, displaying them as it does so. This ancient creature has been presented with many items over the eons, so has some strong expressions to make on the quality of your wares. Become a true warrior, worthy of delivering the justice of the eternal gods with the Apostle of Justice armor set. This armor set also comes with a matching back attachment containing a set of scales to measure your worth. With the Apostle of Justice finisher effect equipped, the Goddess of Justice herself will appear to decide on a verdict for slaying unique enemies. Witness as she decides the fate of your slain foes. Will they ascend to be amongst the gods or be banished to the underworld? The Griffin fledgling pet will be your courageous companion as you journey throughout Rayclast. Take your place in the skies in the Plateau of the Gods hideout.
Kurwa, ale...
This hideout comes
Ale
with many
fajny
different
hideout.
sections for setting up your home or base of operations. In order to travel between them, you simply just need to walk off the edge. Like a true eternal god, you can float between the mountains on the clouds themselves.
Ile to jest...
The
Ile
Trathan
kosztuje ten,
Executioner
kurwa?
pack series
90
also
dolarów?
contains 6 exclusive microtransactions.
Czas drogi.
The Trathan Executioner finisher effect is a brutal display of Trathan might, crushing slain unique enemies as if they were bugs beneath your heel. As a Trathan Executioner, you're the perfect
Nie ma
master for
druida.
the ever-hungry carrion
Kurwa,
raptor
tak się
pet.
starałem, bo na tego Dexa
It
się
has
każdy
taken a
rzuci.
particular liking
Ale
to
w
the
sumie
taste of
Soska
other
też
pets.
fajne zmiany.
And at your
Warrior też
command, it will
zajebiste
swoop
zmiany.
down
Nie
and
no, gram
eviscerate
Dexem.
them,
Gram Monkiem, kurwa.
proceeding to satisfy its hunger by feeding on their corpse. The nobles of the 4 major Trathan houses had their mercenaries, but if their
Wszyscy
hired
z tym
hands
Monkiem
became
grali.
notably
Kurwa, to
irritating,
patrzysz na
they'd
to i
have
to
to call
wygląda
in
broken
the
już na samym
Trathan
początku, nie?
Executioners. You can now
Ja
embrace their
nie wiem,
methods
czy trzeba
and
do
become
popa, kurwa,
brutality
sięgać, nie?
incarnate with the cruel Trathan Executioner
To
armor
po prostu
set.
wygląda broken.
The matching cruel Trathan Executioner cloak will shroud you in scarlet as you
Jeszcze
crush
pod
skulls of your
tanka go
enemies,
budujesz, pod
trail of
Evasion,
blood
stary.
behind you
Ja
as you build
pierdolę.
up
No
a kill
bokser
streak.
czołgista, stary, nie?
Or use the alternate variant to simply put a skeleton on your back. Be bathed in blood as you mutilate monsters with the cruel Trathan Executioner character effect. The swirling blood increases in volume as your spree of slaughter continues. Both this effect and the cloak use the same kill streak for tracking how much blood is shown. After a long and tiring day of executions, enjoy a relaxing game of dice with the Goblin Gambler's Hideout decoration. They'll definitely be playing fair, right? The Pulverizer map device brings a horrid efficiency to punishing the damned of Trathas.
Kurwa.
Each map you open will execute the next victims.
Pierdolę, ale fajne
This map
efekty
device in
dają.
its true ruthlessness tracks the total number of monsters killed, your kills per second, and your largest kill streak
Nie,
up to
no,
the point of
kurwa,
the
muszę
map
to
being
kupić.
completed. This is then displayed on a leaderboard so you can take a measure of you and your friends' violence at the end of each map. Additionally, any microtransactions from the supporter packs will be made available for use in Path of Exile 1. That's enough about cosmetics. Let's get into the Q&A. But firstly, I want to give a huge thank you for your ongoing support.
Nie ma druida.
We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D. Afterwards, at 11 a.m. NZ time, or 4 p.m. Pacific, we'll post Path of Exile 2, the Third Edict's patch notes. With the release at the end of next week, our community team will be posting crucial information you need
Kiedy
for the
będą
release.
patchnoty?
Keep an eye on the news. Thanks for joining us today and checking out our latest developments. We're looking forward to seeing your experiences with Act 4 and its new bosses, fighting the Abyssal, trying new builds, and crafting new
Nie no,
items.
zajebiście.
From the Q&A shortly, so please get your questions ready.
No zajebiście totalnie. Ale kurwa, podjarany tym jestem, nie? Dobra, czym gracie?